And Commissioner Abraham to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Shall we pray? Father God, as we come to you in prayer, Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for life. Thank you for eternal life. Thank you for all your many blessings. And all good things come down from above, and we acknowledge that, and we are most appreciative you created us, and you know everything about us, and you have a plan and purpose for all of us, and you can also heal us, and we thank you for your healing power for our family members, and we just love you with all our hearts. Thank you for this community. Pray you give us wisdom to make good decisions tonight, and lead, guide, and direct in everything that's done and said, and we give you the praise, honor, and glory for it. In Christ's name we pray and give thanks. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to its republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Kaler is visiting her new grandbaby, so she's unable to attend. Her husband Andy is at home with babysitting the dogs, so he was not able to go. So, Mr. City Manager, any additions or deletions?
No, we just have the one scheduled item tonight, and that is a presentation by Park and Rec Director Mark Thompson on the planned renovation for the swimming pool.
Okay. Mark, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. See if I can follow Pam's instructions on, aha, we're there.
Is it possible?
You got a couple of lights here. We last spoke of the Noble Park pool renovation process at the budget session, probably, I guess, last May, June. And so since then, we have put together a process that will go over a 36-week period to get us to construction. And as you know, there are ills with the pool. And here we had to do a cut over pipes, aged pipes. When they did the renovation on the pool, we found out a few years ago, the 92, 93 renovation, I believe it was, that instead of doing all new piping underneath the deck, they just connected the pool to the old piping. This is where in the past, if you remember when Joel Scarborough was here, that we came through and Mertco came and cut in specific areas because we were losing water out through the jets. And we had to cut through there, and there's piping that runs all up and down the deck area there. And these areas right here are some of the patched areas that you'll see. Right here around a valve, and right there it's actually falling through the deck right there, which we have to fill with foam and other things each year. These are the chemical and electrical buildings. As you can tell, we've got some breakage right here already broken off this. These are not very secure when it comes down to high voltage or chemicals. You can see right through here, those are actually holes that have been eaten through the concrete block to some degree. Over here, there's a lot of rust around the electrical. There's rust around the entire door frame, and there's some closer up looks of that right in that area. That's where the door frame has been rusted and taken out at that point. This is the entrance to the concession stand. You've got a ramp right in front of the window service area. The concession stand is not necessarily all that small, but the layout is poor and not up to standards. We cannot cook in this facility other than prepackaged meals. So you can't put any burgers on a grill, you can't do hot dogs, you can't do anything like that. Everything has to be prepackaged, microwave, and that sort of thing. Very limited service. What we're recommending is, first of all, to do a code review That means what will it take to get us, what are the new and advanced codes since it was last renovated? One of the main things that have changed a couple of years ago was and I can't remember the exact title of the legislation, but it went through Congress. That was the drain cover issue that all pools have to. We are currently adapted. We would consider basically changing that we are fully, it's not that we're not fully, we're adapted, but we want to make it a base part of the renovation, that we are fully covered by that. We will do a conditions assessment that will help us come up with a design that is limited to our true needs, not just those wants and that sort of thing. We want to assess everything that's out there. We would then do a preliminary engineering report that would give you all a good solid basis for making decisions on the monetary values that we want to put on the renovation. Those are the first three that would not necessarily be in just a renovation. The design and permitting, bidding, and construction administration would be in your regular contract. We are adding these to the scope so that we get a good solid detail of what we need and what is required for us to come up to a quality facility that would take into consideration the things that we've already shown are not adequate. This is a timeline. If you look at this as a proposed timeline to get us to where construction begins 37 weeks out, right there, this is your 36 week. Going through code review, conditions assessment, preliminary conditions report, city review, design, review of the design, permit review, which would have to go to the state. All plumbing has to go to the state. All swimming pools have to go to the state. That's not something we do here in the city. It goes through the health department to the state. They review it, has to come back. That's why that's a little longer in particular, Mayor. We know the state reviews it's hard to tell how long that will be. One of the things we can do, we can initiate our bidding a little early. If we get into that situation, we can go. What this does with this bidding process gets us to construction start right there in the August timeframe, right after it closes. That gives us 4 solid months to November to get this process done. What it also allows us to do right here in the preliminary conditions report phase and city review phase, it takes us to the point where how much money are we going to need for the full project? Do we have enough? If you recall, we anticipated somewhere about $770,000 for the renovation, but in initial discussions, we think just the pool itself can come in less than that, and we would then probably break that out and have another design level for the concession stand separately, if you understand what I'm saying. We get to that point and say, hopefully, the pool, the plumbing, the filtration, the circulation comes in at X minus what the concession building would be. So we're still talking in that framework of a total of somewhere in that 700 plus range.
Mark, the pictures tell the story with the filtration house. It's about ready to fall down.
Correct.
Not much thought probably has to be given to what we need to do there. Last spring during budget, you provided a little bit more elaboration on the circulation pumping system and your belief at that time that needed to be upgraded or replaced as well. Can you just kind of revisit that just a little bit, just so that
Yes.
we reaffirm what we think.
In fact, I thought I'd had picture. I left one picture out.
Well,
That
there's only
was
so
of
much of that you can show with pictures.
That was, and it's all it shows is the pipes and
Right.
the pumps and we have an in-ground pipe and pump system through there. The pumps we have to replace those, redo those, get them remachined about every other year. The piping underneath the entire deck, like I said, actually goes probably back to at least 40 years and the 72 renovation. And those are cast iron, ductile pipes, and stainless steel. When you blow those things out, the rust, well, they're not stainless steel, they're galvanized steel. The rust is just horrible, and then those end up breaking. They're just thin after a while. With so much chlorine going through the piping filtration system, the wear and tear on anything metal just wears us out. And 40 years, even the 20 years that we're at with close to the 20-year period with the current renovation, we're 19 years from that last renovation. We just wear things out.
Mark, you had significant leakage in the.
We were. That's right. We were sitting at about what our estimate was somewhere around 5,000 gallons a day.
And is that in the piping system?
Yes, that's where we
recirculation
anticipate
system
that is in the
leaking? So
piping.
you not only have defective pipes, but you have water going into the support
Which is
material.
water
That's
and and chemicals that we feed. All of that's going down the waste with that.
Mark, how many kids use the pool this?
Tremendous numbers. This year was a special number. It was so hot. We are averaging probably over 400 people a day to the pool.
And you were open.
We are open the first week in June to when Paducah schools go back into session, which is usually right after around the 10th of August.
So about
2.5 months.
2.5 months.
Yeah.
So 75 times 400.
Yeah.
What would that be, about
30,000.
30,000?
Yeah. We're in the 30,000+ attendance.
And is this permitting process, is that a worst case scenario?
Yes, sir. We certainly hope so.
I mean, I can understand what has to go to the state.
Yes.
But the rest of this thing, we ought to put a rush on and do it faster than 36 weeks.
Well, the 36 weeks is when we can start construction. We can be prepared. All the bidding and everything will be done and ready. We can't start construction until August, and we close of next year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's as soon as we can go. We're shooting for August of next year to have the construction. What it also allows us, we project that we can get this done before December of next year. But just in case something doesn't work out right, we can shut it down, and we still have another 3 or 4 months of construction time, if absolutely necessary, in the late spring. So we would be in good shape there. But this is the right timing to do it, to get it done and get it done right.
Commissioner Abraham, have you got any comments?
So you would start construction, I'm sorry. I'm not Commissioner Abraham, sorry. I was just thinking.
It's okay. That's all right. Well, right off the bat, these pictures are horrible. I mean, the storage sheds. I mean, you got chemicals eating through concrete. I mean, that is not the standard of the city.
No, it's not.
And that is not the type of quality of life things that we talk about up here. So we need to find out exactly what we need to do, find the funds to get it done, because when you have that much traffic, and that park has always been popular, and with the heat like it was last summer, I mean, the concession stands, I mean, it looks pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's not funny. It's terrible. It's terrible. So we need to fix this. and make sure we do it right. But we need to fix it. I think our guys, our citizens, deserve that. And those are my comments.
We're talking about, we're probably, at least in this fiscal year, we need to come up with somewhere in the neighborhood of about 65,000 of this 98,000 that we're talking about for the engineering portion.
We've budgeted for that.
Yep.
Commissioner Galt?
And that was going to be my second question. You have the money in your budget for the portion you would need this year, and then we would do
Not
the rest?
directly in mine, but it's in.
Yeah,
The general
it's well, it's in the investment fund, and our anticipation would be that we would finance this through a bonding, perhaps to include other projects. But clearly, it's something that we would need to bond for.
And you would start construction in August.
August of next year.
So there would be no pool.
No closing unless there's a breakdown.
Got it.
Well,
No close. Yeah, I understand. No closing. It would be at the end of the.
right,
Yes.
right. Commissioner Watkins?
Thank you, Mayor. So we're talking about a new electrical room, new concession stand, and new room for chemical storage?
Yes, we're talking about a single larger building for the chemicals, electrical, and all of that sort of thing.
House it all.
Made of proper materials, so the corrosiveness. And even through this, we'll be looking at other things other than chlorine. Back when I started in Parks and Recreation, we were still using gas chlorine, which is probably one of the most dangerous things you can have teenagers working on. Wow. We'll even take a look at the opportunity. They do ozone, they do other things like that that are safer, less corrosive, and some of those options too when we go through the assessments and engineering reports. So we'll be looking at those options too.
Essentially, then it'd be one new building with 3 different compartments in, right? And
Right.
then new piping for the pool. Is that
Right.
correct? What you need
Right.
to do there? Well, I'm like Commissioner Abraham, Commissioner Galt. We need to find the money and do that. When you got 30,000+ people using it each summer, and the type of summers we have where it's so hot and humid in western Kentucky, it's probably literally a lifesaver for some people to be able to cool down and enjoy themselves and swim. And I grew up swimming at Noble Park Pool, and I think it's really the only public pool in the city limits. And so the smaller pools have all been closed, so I think we need to do it, and I like the plan, and so I think we ought to move forward on it.
Mark, there is a plan somewhere back when we were going to have some money coming in,
Right.
and we had a rec center that was going to be built, and I believe we were going to do away with the swimming pool altogether and have sort of a splash pool. And of course, once this is built, then, it's here.
Well, it's probably another 20 years worth.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you don't see that anything comes along that's going to make us want to do anything differently than what we're talking about here?
As we've looked through it, and I've looked through that, we've adapted the master plan in the past. There are ways to adapt that master plan to expand our footprint of the pool to where we could add a splash pad to it or some other things like that if we're truly interested in do that. We have some yard space. We can adjust some roadways. We can do some things that would adapt to that.
Okay.
Example, one might be where the sand volleyball courts are. We can move sand volleyball courts just about anywhere in there. But if we needed some space for a splash pad, extend it over that way. Plus, we have some green space, even just where people sit over in the picnic area, that we could use and expand some of that if it were to come down the pike.
Okay. Any other questions for Mark?
Yep. Do want to talk about, we are going to have the grand opening here on the 29th of the Paducah Recreation Center. Hope you're going to be able to enjoy it. We're going to also have a fall festival.
Okay, so wait a minute. So let's make sure the audience
Okay.
has gotten that connection. We're we're through talking about the pool now.
Correct.
And we're talking about the Fountain Avenue project and some of the
Right.
exciting things that are going on there.
One of the things that we did, and I thank you, Mayor, for that, in the past year, we made agreements with the Margaret Hank Cumberland Presbyterian Church to purchase the Life Center that was next door to their facility. With that, we have decided to make a year-round recreation facility, gymnasium, meeting space, game space, and make it not only available to the community, surrounding community, but Paducah as a whole. Because we're going to be working with the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club with basketball leagues. We're also talking about indoor soccer, quote unquote, futsal leagues. We're talking about volleyball leagues and I've had a tremendous response for people who need those types of facilities on a public basis. That facility is at 1527 Martin Luther King Drive. It is between Park Avenue and Martin Luther King, and we are going to be staffing it on a year-round basis. We're also going to be working to have senior activities in the mornings. If folks want to come in and have some active, we're talking about bridge clubs, we're talking about shuffleboard, and the like. So I think it's going to be a real bonus to this community like it hadn't had before that's going to be open to the public.
Now, did you say, I might have missed it, that what we're doing with Jatan, we're closing Jatan, so that will no longer be available?
We have already exited from the Jatan Gymnasium facility out in back of the Jatan Schoolhouse Apartments. We are no longer associated with that and don't have the keys to the facility anymore. This is going to take the place of that facility. It's number one, the facility we've got has a heat and air. We were only really able to use that facility about 7 months out of the year. The heating and cooling costs will be lower there than we had over at the other facility. And we don't have to put the number of repairs into this facility that we have. We are putting in a new gym floor right now. In fact, most of it was installed today and finished. So we'll be there and ready to go in a week or so. We're putting in new basketball goals. We've got chairs for meeting space. We're putting in games, volleyball nets, new backboards. Our new stage curtain will be a little late coming, but it will be installed in the next 6 weeks. But it's going to be a nice facility that's going to be quite capable of helping the city have a lot of quality recreation on a year-round basis.
The grand opening for that is, what's the date on that?
Is October 29th, and I believe is it at 4 or 4:30? 4:30. Thank you, Pam. It's at 4:30 on the 29th. It's a Saturday. Immediately following that, the community is going to be having a fall festival in the Fountain Avenue neighborhood. The folks will be coming from our grand opening and going over to the fall festival where they'll have trunk or treat and a lot of games and things like that, because we'll be closing some streets over there in conjunction. We've got a lot of churches. We've got a lot of people in the community who are helping us with this facility and the planning, and we're really excited about it.
Questions for Mark on that?
I do need to expand on one thing, Mayor.
Well, I know you're going to expand on, but do we want to go ahead and ask questions on this
Okay, that's
first,
fine.
and then you can expand it?
Where's the location for the trunk or treat going to be for Fountain Avenue neighborhood?
Pam, do you have it? It's 4 blocks surrounding Lang Park area. Do you have the exact addresses for? But it's the 4 blocks surrounding Lang Park
Okay.
and that sort of thing. Yeah, from Lang Park to 15th or 14th down that way, towards that direction. But it ought to be a nice, and the community's involved, folks opening their doors and their trunks. So
Great.
Any other questions for Mark on that?
Good job.
Expands into,
Yeah, I think the whole this whole concept of revitalization of the neighborhood, how we went about doing that, and then with the the community center, the buy-in, the folks that live in that community. It really feel like it's truly theirs, and that's the way you should do it, the way we've done it over there. So again, I applaud the efforts from not only from Parks but planning.
Planning is involved in
Yeah.
it also. They're involved in the fall festival.
That's a good job.
So we're working together.
Good job.
And I think Steve Irvin has maybe some exciting announcements to make as far as possibly new houses going up in that area that is through private developers. So there's a lot of, one thing leads to something else.
Right.
And then that leads to something else. So the momentum is definitely going in that neighborhood. And
It certainly is. And I think, as I said, I think this is going to be a community-wide usage facility. I think it's going to be a great place to meet.
so to help you out, because there's a pot of money here and you can only do so much with that pot of money, sometimes you have to make choices. And this year we sort of made a choice, and so I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a good lead-in. Sometimes when we make tough decisions, we couldn't go wrong on a decision, except you're always, when you have to make a tough decision, you're going to make somebody unhappy. But I think most people understand that we have a limited amount of funds in the city, and sometimes we have to choose one program over another. This year, the choice of the Community Recreation Center, which is going to serve people for a year-round basis and for a lot of quality programs, we made that decision. Unfortunately, the decision that we had to make was not to renew the ice rink. And that's something that, while we made that decision back with with this year's budget sessions back in May, a lot of people still aren't aware of that. And while I have people stopping me every day, and they wince when they see that we're not going to do the ice rink, because it was a popular activity, and maybe someday we'll be able to do it again when budgets come about in better fashion. But we had to make a decision, and when I explained to them that we're opening this community center, I think a lot of people understand it. That, hey, we made a decision that's going to serve Paducah year-round for years to come, whereas the ice rink, while it was a great and is a great publicity and a lot of fun, but it's only 8 weeks out of the year. And so we made the choice to serve Paducah year-round in this case. And I think that was the right decision for the city and the citizens of Paducah.
I think if Commissioner Watkins has his way, we'll someday have a permanent ice skating rink.
Yes, sir. That's my goal. We can only do so much, and we'd like to be able to do everything, and we can. And ice skating has proven itself to be extremely popular, with 19,000 skaters the first year, so I think we'll be revisiting that at some point in the future. Hopefully, I'd love to see a permanent year-round ice skating rink for Paducah one day.
Any other comments?
No, I mean, that is exactly what it is. We discussed it during budget. It's very difficult to do everything to appease everyone, but I think this was a really good choice, and you've done extremely well with it, Mark, and it's gonna be a good thing. So
I think so.
That floor, didn't you get a really good buy on that floor?
Yes, we did. Yes, we
Wasn't
did.
that considerably less than the numbers you were initially talking
Initially,
about?
we were talking probably about $10,000 more, and so
Yeah,
it came in
I
at
thought.
just at under $30,000 for that floor.
All right. Mr. City Manager, is that all for Mark?
That's all. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good job. Brings us to the City Manager's report.
Well, I think the issue of the past week, of course, has been the convention center. Just wanted to visit briefly with you tonight about the intention of the convention center board to bring in an outside party or parties to do some sort of an internal review and perhaps get involved in some recommendations for perhaps policy changes going forward, and possibly even some avenues of asset recovery. This I don't think is news to you and probably meets your expectations. I think also there's a general awareness that the expense of this is probably more than the convention center budget can bear at this time. So I would expect that there will be a request made of the City Commission and the County Commission for financial participation in these services. The Convention Center Board is meeting Monday, and I believe there will be proposals brought in with the recommendation for someone to bring on board for these purposes. So I guess unless I hear differently from you, my communication to the board would be that you would expect to look favorably upon participation there. At this point in time, I don't have much information about the amount of dollars that we would be looking at, but obviously we would be trying to, the Convention Center Board would be trying to get something done as soon as they can, and that means that the typically when you want something done quicker, you may have to pay a little bit more for that. This is what's being looked into right now, leading up hopefully to some recommendations by the board on Monday. So any thoughts on that? Any different than that? If so, I guess I'd like to perhaps have a little discussion on that tonight. If not, I think that, again, that's what you could expect, is that a proposal would come forward for some city assistance in funding these services.
I think what we have to be concerned about is getting the convention center through the next 2.5 months. There have been promises made that these events will take place. There are signed contracts, and so our concern is getting through this next 2.5 months. Then what happens? Well, as you know, we're talking to people that we might be able to talking to different hoteliers out there. So you've always got that possibility going forward. And then when we get to the end of the year, then we'll look at where we go from there. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people working at this problem from a lot of different angles. The city and the county being two of them. So I think Jeff attended the meeting yesterday, and I think he's got a good plan, and I think we need to support that.
Well, just so I'm clear, Jeff, I just want to make sure that the Convention Center Corporation will bring to us and the fiscal court recommendations of how they will proceed, and then it'll be up to all of us to choose how we participate. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think they'd be willing to do it however you'd like. If you want to approve who they would contract with, my sense is they would welcome that. I think the immediate concern they have is the ability to fund this. That
Right.
Everybody agrees needs to be done.
Okay.
Well, along those same lines, of course, I'm sure we've all had calls, and wherever you are in the city, if you're an elected official, that's been the subject on everyone's mind about the management of the convention center, where they're moving, how we're moving forward, expensive things. And I'm going to put this out here right now. I think that we may need to look at, since ultimately we're held responsible for the success or failures of a lot of things here, as well we should be. I mean, we signed up for that when we ran for election. Those boards that we vote on to serve in the capacity that taxpayer dollars are used to do whatever. When it comes to hiring folks to manage or run that. I mean, I'm fully fine with that particular body bringing in candidates and narrowing them down. But when it comes to hiring those folks, I think we should have a part to play in that, given the fact that if things go south, which sometimes they do, we're the ones that held responsible for that, because again, we have citizens that step up to the plate to volunteer to do these to serve on these boards in whatever capacity. We're elected to oversee the general fund and make sure that taxpayers' dollars are used to the best of as much as we can get out of them. So I think we need to look at that if we want to be, if we're going to be held responsible for that, because that decision, if we make, they bring the folks in, these are the folks we want, and here are the candidates. Now, you guys decide, any one you choose is okay, because we've narrowed it down to 5. So you guys pick them. I don't think that's undercutting their authority. Actually, probably it takes some of the pressure off of them. So I'm putting that out there. Everybody has their opinion on those things. That's mine.
That kind of leads me to, I'd like to make a statement if I could, Mayor,
Sure.
just a couple of minutes long. I jotted down some notes concerning there's been lots of coverage on the convention center recently, and finger pointing. Everyone is looking for someone to blame. Why didn't the bank know the checks required 2 signatures but only had 1? Why didn't the accounting firm know they collected and paid invoices? Why didn't the convention board know it was 30% of their budget? Why didn't the city commission know? Why didn't the county commission know? Why didn't the FBI know? Look, there are only 2 people to blame in this whole scenario, and that's Patrick Kerr and Susan Wilson. If any of us had perfect knowledge or perfect information, we could have prevented it. I'm reminded of the Tom Cruise movie, The Minority Report, where authorities knew before a crime was going to be committed and arrested the perpetrator just before they committed the crime. We don't have perfect knowledge or perfect information. Only God does. If we did, we could prevent all crime. There wouldn't be any crime. But we don't. This is an intelligent young man with an elaborate scheme to defraud the taxpayers of Paducah and McCracken County out of a lot of money, and these are the only 2 people to blame, not anyone else. It's time to let the court decide their fate. I do think we should try to address the reason behind this, and that is the scourge of prescription pill abuse in our community. The mayor and I attended a 3-hour drug summit at the Kentucky League of Cities in Lexington last week. The Kentucky Attorney General and other law enforcement officials were on the panel. We need to require a prescription for Sudafed at the very least, and even ban it. Florida needs to step up and close down these pill mills where most of these pills come to Kentucky from. And it really bothers me that someone can go online and order as many prescription painkillers as they want. Which was the case here. This needs to be stopped, and our efforts need to be directed in that area. Too many people have destroyed their careers, their lives, and their families with prescription pill abuse, and we need to focus our attention on this issue. It's a big problem in our community, and I really, really applaud the efforts of the Paducah Police Department, the Cracken County Sheriff's Department, the U.S. Department of Justice, and others that participated last week in trying to do something in this area to make this a better community. But that's really where I think our focus needs to be drawn at this point.
Richard, both of you, they're excellent comments. And Richard, I think if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to keep doing them over and over again. And I think we're going to learn from our mistakes. And I think you bring up an excellent point, and I think we need in the weeks ahead, we need to be addressing that. And how we go about it, I'm not real sure, but we probably ought to have more input than we have in the past. And you're talking about when a volunteer board goes out and hires somebody and pays for them with city money, that there ought to be more oversight. And I agree with you. we're gonna do everything we can to make sure something like this doesn't happen. And so, Commissioner Watkins, those were good comments. But we need to look at that. How, whether city manager and our human resource person is more involved going forward. That probably needs to be the case. So I want the public to know that we are looking into this, and we are trying to do a better job. And we will continue to do that. We'll just continue to keep going forward. And right now, our task is to get the best person or best organization to manage that convention center, and to guarantee that anybody who has a party there has a successful party and is treated right. That needs to be our focus right now, and it will be our focus. And then we need to look into the whole process that Commissioner Abraham spoke to. So, any other comments?
I want to keep in mind that these are volunteer boards, and I think that we, ask a lot of the volunteers that we have step up to the plate. And again, this one was organized by state statute and appointed from both sides, the fiscal court and the city. And there's a lot of responsibility that lies there. And Tammy, I would dare say that we probably have 50 boards within the city, a minimum of at least 50 boards, and we have volunteers that serve on the majority of those. And it's very complicated to run a city, and the county as well. And we request a lot of those people that are stepping up and volunteering, and we ask a lot from a lot of people all across the board. So I agree with your comments, Commissioner Abraham, but I do want us to keep in mind that.
Yeah, and I certainly was not pointing blame at the volunteer boards. Our volunteer boards do a great job.
No, I know. I just want to keep that in mind.
But probably we could do something here that would give them a little bit of help.
Exactly what Commissioner Abraham, exactly.
Better.
Well, I think right now what I brought up is that thing.
Right.
There
right.
may be others, but right now that is the thing they very much want, to have this independent review conducted, and they want you to, be a partner in that. They want disclosure. They want to be able to assess going backwards and going forward.
And
they don't do that.
That, to conclude what I was going to finish saying, they are volunteers, and when they ask for support, they need support, and they need services from professionals such as HR and people that are in the business of doing this every day, that are used to insurance and liability and those kind of things, background checks, all those things that they're not used to overseeing, that may be a little different from the things that they do. So I think any way that we can support these boards and provide those services for them, we need to make sure that that's first and foremost in our mind, and
I agree.
Make sure that we put
we would be
places to do
remiss
that.
if we didn't
That's right.
step up
That's right.
and help. I mean, they're volunteering, and it's stressful, and it's important, and that's a multi-million-dollar facility over there, and we need to make sure that they have everything they need to do what they have volunteered to do.
The value of both of those, I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean, the value of both of,
Yeah, go ahead.
and the value of both those buildings put together around $25 million worth of property.
To build them new, I think that's approximately what Owensboro is getting ready to spend to build a 100,000 square foot convention center, that or more. So yeah, both of them are in excellent shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're valuable. And I was just going to say that there's a lot of victims in this. Certainly the Kerr family is a victim. But also the convention center is a victim, the city's a victim, the county's a victim. And inside the city, a victim is our finance department. people, John Perkins and his staff are very concerned that they're getting the perception that they had something to do with this. And here we have just gotten 20 consecutive years of an award for outstanding work in the finance department, and it's been under John Perkins' leadership. But John Perkins and his staff had nothing to do with this, and but yet there's a lot of people out there that think that this was caused by the finance department.
Well, I think for clarity that the bookkeeping is outside of the city system.
Right.
And therefore there was not that responsibility, nor was it audited as part of the city audit. I think that's the distinction we want to make clear, is that in fact the city finance department did not have oversight responsibilities there.
And people should know that our budget is transparent. It's online. You can come down here. You can look at it. We know where every single penny goes, and you know we vote on what we spend. You know, we hide nothing. There is nothing hidden. And John, like you said, John does a wonderful job. Won 20 years worth of awards that aren't handed out easily, and our books are in perfect order. And it's an impeccable operation. We have nothing to hide. It's open for everybody to see, and you know exactly where every penny goes, and it's accounted for.
So having said all that, the city, I mean, Jeff is spending a lot of time on this, and I appreciate that. We're going to move forward. We're going to keep that convention center open. We're going to continue to look for a hotelier that can build a new hotel and run that convention center going forward. And we're going to work hard at that, and we're going to survive this, and we'll be better for it than we were before. So I think that's really all that needs to be said on that. Miranda, you're the only person that is in the public here tonight. Would you like to get up and say anything?
I think she said it's time to go home.
I was going to invite you to do the Pledge of Allegiance, but I forgot. So next time you're here, I'll see if you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Kind of lead us in that. She said it. Did she? I know she did. Well, we'll give you another chance. So there is no executive session, so we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good job. Good job.